Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 36 of the Club Lorcana podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeremy Bertorioni. With me, as always, Syed.
Hello.
And joining us for a very special guest, almost a friend, Ryan Walker.
One day I'll be a friend.
One day I'll be a friend. Super excited to bring this episode to you guys after our latest tournament. You guys got to see us on the way, and I wanted to cover some housekeeping just up top. First, I'd like to plug Zan's Metafy. We just took down an event, basically sweeping fully, and you could have done the same thing if you had applied to his Metafy because he put the deck on his Metafy. It was a very secret thing. So don't get left behind in the metagame. If you want to know what the best of the best is playing, he is selling that information to you. So that is Zan's Metafy. Also wanted to shout out that Zan is playing in the Lorcana Cross-Continental Challenge. This is an event put on by Pavel Kolev. He's got a match on Monday. Pavel sent him that for winning in the last, you would say, LCCC. He's got a match on Monday. He's playing against DKP. Probably something you want to watch because I think if there is a debate on who the best Lorcana player is, which I don't think there is because I think it's Zan, but that's neither here nor there. If there is a debate, it's between Zan and DKP. Zan, of course, having the best records and DKP winning the widest variety of things. Also, I wanted to shout out there is a 10K at Charlie's Collectibles Show on the weekend of the 22nd. That's a local Georgia tournament. Should be a huge event. Everyone's super excited to prove themselves in the Set 7 metagame. So come on down to the 10K on the 22nd. And then if you want to stick around, they have a 5K at Gubu Games on April 5th. This is the grand opening tournament of the new Gubu Games. Those guys are pretty close to Ryan here, friends of ours. So check that out. And the last shout out is going to be join me on X every Monday morning for Spaces. We just did our first space. It was sort of a question and answer session for the winner of the 10K tournament at SSG. We'll cover who that is a little later. And we just had a great time. A bunch of people stopped by. RMB from Team Maelstrom stopped by and gave his opinions on the deck. So a lot of good players giving a lot of good opinions on my Spaces on X. That's Monday mornings at 8:30. All right, let's start this podcast off. I just covered the announcements. I always like to start with a sort of a look into the metagame, and I've been talking a lot. So Zan, talk to me about the metagame. What are the top decks?
I mean, blue, steel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's a blue steel world, and we're just living in it.
Yeah, we're just, sapphiring it up.
And is this the deck that you have available on your Metafy starting since last Thursday?
Yep. That's the deck that I posted and believe is like the best deck. Yeah.
So by now the secret's out. The deck list has been posted, so we can really talk about it. Let's just get into it for the podcast people. How does the deck work? What makes it better than everything else in your expertise?
So I like to think about the deck in terms of combos. So you can think of Bell and an item like a popsicle or a fortisphere as a combo. Then you can think about Bell and singing Let the Storm Rage On and Strength as a combo. You can think about Scrooge McDuck and Along Came Zeus as a combo and 4 items, right? Like you're just trying to assemble as many combos as possible. And if you're able to do that, what you're able to do is basically pay things at a huge discount rate, right? Like a bell, which costs 3, and a song, which costs 3, all came from one cost item, right? So something that costs 7, right? Playing a bell and singing the song ultimately ended up costing you 1. And then something that ended up costing you 4 ended up costing you something that ended up costing you 12 would have cost you 12 on its own, ended up costing you 4, right? Because you played 4 popsicles, let's say. Then you played Scrooge McDuck for free, exerting those items, and then you used Along Came Zeus using the Scrooge McDuck. That was 12 right there. And so basically, if you start to think about the deck like that and trying to assemble those things over and over again, you start basically skipping turns, whereas the other person is going like 1 drop on 1, 2 drop on 2, 3 drop on 3. You're just doing a lot more stuff in a shorter amount of time. then the other way to look at it is you have Oswald, right? Oswald you can ink a card, and basically you can hit a lucky dime, and that is something that would cost you 7, but it costs you 0, right? Or costs you 2 if you think about it as the cost of the Oswald.
Well, not only did it save you the 7 ink, but you also didn't draw it for turn. You know, if your Oswald flips a dime, you were going to draw a dime that turn. So you didn't draw that. So it's like you took an extra turn where all you did was draw and play the lucky dime.
Exactly. But you have to see that like what's actually happening, because basically what people actually see is like I was on camera on Saturday, and I missed, like, I think the chat had a count for how many times I missed off of Oswald, and I think the count was 15. And in my mind, I was like, when I hit on the 16th time, for the first time after 16 times, like, I didn't feel like, oh my God, I missed 15 times. I actually didn't even, it felt like I didn't acknowledge the 15. I was just like, all I need to do is just hit once, and it just completely changes the game, right? And at the same time, it's giving me information what's going on the bottom. And you're drawing so many cards in Sapphire that that information of putting cards at the bottom starts sculpting the game plan for the future. And so I think that people just don't understand just yet how powerful a card like Oswald is, and a lot of people are banking on it failing.
One thing that struck me as you were talking there, when I'm thinking about Lorcana, there's several axes that we're playing on. Right? X-axis, maybe it's the board. Y-axis, maybe it's hand size. It's almost like a Z-axis of how many ink have I been able to cheat, right? I can cheat 2 with Bell. I can cheat again when I sing a song. I can, cheat a 3-cost quill out with my Oswald, right?
Mm-hmm.
I keep accruing points on this axis as I'm getting these free things into the game.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I don't generally keep track of those things. I'm just like automatically just trying to assemble those things. And a card like Baby Tamatoa just naturally does that, right? Brings back 2 cards, so it's a powerhouse in terms of card value, and then it can put any item into play when you quest. And so your whole deck is just trying to do this thing when everybody else is like, kind of playing fair Lorcana, and it's kind of hilarious to watch them like, have a tough time against you.
Everybody else's turn is like, I'm going to play a character. And you're like, okay, are you sure you want to pass back to me? Mine's going to take a little longer. And we will get to that. Okay, so the metagame is typically more than one deck. If you're not playing Blue Steel's Hand, what do you think your other options are?
I mean, I think that you're coping a little bit with Blue-Red.
Sure. I think it could be a natural, like an evolution or an adaptation, right? Like Blue-Red, here's what I would say, is if you keep the same core of blue cards and just take out the steel cards and 1-for-1 them with red cards, well, now you're playing blue-red, and you maybe could add your coil, and you have Sisus, which are good against opposing Tamatoas. They also provide a little bit of a clock. You maybe play 1 or 2 of the new Shift Bell, which is another like, okay, I'm really trying to get that middling clock in. And you can play Be Prepared, it's like a sweeper. So I could see a blue-red deck emerging that is fairly similar to the blue-steel deck, almost like 49 cards similar, but just the red cards instead of the steel cards, if you think that might be a little more helpful. That's like a way that I could see it. And Sisu is like a pretty good pivot plan for, getting lore if people switch to something like I find on my Platinum or, a lot of Benjas or whatever. I feel like the blue-red deck might be a little more resilient. I'm a little less sold on, I don't know if you saw this, but Jonathan Williams was tweeting about Sword of Truth. This is a 4-ink uninkable item that says you can banish it to banish target villain. Obviously very good against Tamatoa, the nasty main villain of the new deck. So I can see a path forward for blue-red, but I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like blue-red decks of the past. I think Din a Little Lore style decks, this is DKP's version that was a little more reliant on things like McDuck Manor and Shark and didn't even have Tamatoas or very many items at all. I think those are a thing of the, you would say, past. So yeah, that's how I feel about blue-red. I think I kind of agree with you on Cope, but I think it's Cope that you could make work.
So Sapphire Ruby is certainly been one of the most powerful color combinations, if not the most powerful color combination. But what makes everything obvious is actually the card that you would ban to basically put us back into a normal metagame, right? When you start thinking about what that is, you start to realize the answer is not Hiram, not Bell, not Tamatoa. It's actually Popsicle, right? Everything stems from Popsicle. So now you think about, okay, if Popsicle is the most powerful effect, how many Popsicles would I play if I was allowed to play as many Popsicles as I wanted? I would probably play, 20 to 40. I don't know.
At least 12.
16.
Right? Like that number is kind of absurd. So then you ask yourself, okay, what's the second card that's closest to Popsicle? It's Fortisphere. And once you make those connections, then it just becomes obvious that the main color combination for this strategy should be blue steel.
And we did see Blue Steel take the weekend. The winner at SSG was playing Blue Steel. Zan, of course, top 4 at SSG with Blue Steel. And a big congrats to one of your Metafy subscribers. Braden also won a tournament with Blue Steel.
I mean, and also congrats to, my best friend and my best man, Jeremy.
Oh, true. I ended up taking down the SSG this past weekend. I got first place with Blue Steel. Oh, my God, I almost forgot about that. I was so excited for how well you did and how well Braden, one of your Metafy subscribers, did. Subscribe to that Metafy, and you can be just like him. But yeah, I was able to win with Blue Steel. I got to put on quite a clinic against a Amber Steel opponent on in round, I think it was like 8 of the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I got to queue into Jonathan Williams in the finals. And this is a guy that's made the finals. First of all, this guy was a guy who was on our podcast.
You're missing a step here.
You skipped one.
Which one did I skip?
The semifinals.
The semifinals.
Semifinals.
It's me versus you.
Oh, true.
So Jeremy and I got paired, and what happened?
Basically, my Oswalds are just better.
First, they just didn't put it on stream, which is a huge mistake.
So I'll break it down. It's pretty simple. So I was thinking about the deck, how powerful it is, and Jeremy, always wants the best for me, and I want the best for Jeremy. He was kind enough to concede to me in what was it, round 7?
I think it was round 7 because then I went into the winning round.
Yep. So Jeremy gave me a win in round 7. We were doing so well that in round 5, first seed, second seed, third seed was us 3. Mm-hmm. So we were bound to get paired against each other. And so they got paired against each other. They drew, which meant that they would get paired against me because I had an unintentional draw in round 3. And then I got paired against Jeremy, and Jeremy was like, you got it. And so that locked up top 8 for me. And so we then fast forward. We both win our top 8 matches. We end up playing in top 4. And I felt like I should repay it. And so I gave Jeremy the win. And so the goal was for Blue Steel to win. And, I had missed 15 times on camera. And it didn't really matter, but I feel like against an opponent like Jonathan Williams, I wanted the deck to do its thing. And Jeremy's Oswalds were hitting better than mine. And so I was like, the decision's quite easy. Jeremy, go win. And so he went and defeated the strong opponent of Jonathan Williams.
Jonathan Williams, he was on our podcast. I walk into the room where the camera matches happen. It's its own little room. It's separate from everything else. He looks right at me and he goes, "Oh man, it's not Zan."
No.
And I pretty much KO Ken Super Saiyan right there. I was like, "You're gonna wish it was Zan, okay?" But by the end of this match, you're gonna be like, "I wish that I played against Zan." So, got to trick on him a little bit. He thought that he had game 1, and I sort of stole it out from under him. And just the look on his face, he goes, "You cheated." And I was like, "No, I didn't cheat." He's like, "Yeah, you're right. You didn't. Sorry. You stole it from me." And I'm like, "There you go." Now you're getting closer.
You pulled a Vegeta.
I did. I pulled a Vegeta. What does that mean, Zan? One time I pulled a Vegeta. My dad caught me and he whooped me. Okay.
I was pretty confident whoever came out of that match was going to take down the final. It felt like the deck was on fire at that point.
So really blue heavy. metagame. I think that can be a lot of fun, but you kind of have to embrace it. I wouldn't really try to go around the blue cards right now. I would explore all my options. Blue steel, blue red. What else we have? Blue green has the new ink geyser. That's an interesting round. Blurple. I would just play all the items and then see what else you can do that makes sense. Maybe Magical Dispel is the answer. It's basically another Tamatoa in this deck because if your Tamatoa flips a dime, or if your Oswald flips a dime, suddenly you have a 6 cost thing that can quest for 7.
Mm-hmm.
That's not nothing in the mirror or whatever. And it's, X6 or whatever. It's like, so I would just be exploring my options with this blue shell. I wouldn't move outside of the blue shell right now. I think it's really, really strong.
Yeah.
What's the next deck outside of the blue shell, though? Does anything else exist?
I will create something, but that'll be reserved for the Metafy.
You saw a lot of people winning with purple steel over the weekend. This is using the new giant cobra to gain a bunch of lore. You also saw him playing This Is My Family in some of the more successful lists, which called here on the podcast.
0 copies made it to our tournament, SSG.
I think one top 8.
There were 7 Sapphire decks and then 1 emerald green.
So I hate to say it, but in my top 8 match, I played against purple steel.
Oh.
Yeah, they were not playing This Is My Family. They just had Cobra.
Why did I keep hearing that there were 7 Sapphire decks?
I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you that I played it against purple steel in my top 8 round.
Okay.
Which was great for me because I've been beating it all day, so I got to beat it again. It was pretty easy. I played all my cards, killed all their guys, quested for 20.
Yeah, mine was against, blue steel aggro, and then the top 4 was blue steel, blue red. Yep. So that was at least 5 blue decks.
Right. So, this kind of moves us into what we were going to talk about was the tournament report. So the last time they saw us, we were in, you would say, the car, and we had a plan going in, right? We were going to, play this new blue steel deck. We had Nathan in the car with us. He was on blue red. Didn't quite work out for Nathan. I think he still had a pretty good record. I think he was 5-2-1 by the end of the day. So it still did pretty good. Still played a lot of blue cards. So yeah, what do you want to say about that? Executing the plan.
It's interesting. I think in the Road podcast, I actually said I was playing Amethyst Steel.
Yeah, you did.
And that was prior to playing 4 games against Sapphire Steel against Jeremy in the back seat and immediately pivoting. I had not practiced the deck a lot, so getting to see it piloted correctly completely changed my mind. I was able to see how broken it was, how much ink you were able to cheat out, and I was pretty sold on it pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. And so, we got to ask, you missed top 8 by just a hair, right? You
don't have to talk about that.
We should talk about it. What happened? If you're playing the most broken deck,
Sure.
What was it? What happened in your last round?
Yeah, that's fair.
Last 2 rounds.
Last 2 rounds, yeah, because if you looked at the standings after 6, it was us. It was 1, 2, 3, me, you, Zen, in whatever order it was. So all I needed to do was win one of my last 2 matches. I paired into an Amber Steel in round 7. I think his name was Freddie.
Yep.
He was sick. I don't know. We ended up drawing that round. We played a little slow. I won't say, I think both of us could have played faster in that match to get to a third match, but we ended up going to time in match 3, and I think Freddie got to 19. And so we took the draw in round 7 and moved on.
But there was a path to victory.
That's true. Yeah. Zan, I think you had already won that round or something, and you made your way over.
No, Jeremy gave me the win that round.
Yeah. So Zan was able to watch that match, and after game 3 ended, we were able to talk through a line that I had not seen in that match. Essentially, I had a way more efficient way to get his big Robin Hood off the board using my
Tipo
shield and Tipo. To get a 6th character out and sing strength. Just didn't see the line of getting the shield back and popping the shield to give my...
It was a bit more complicated. Basically, when you're playing against Amber Steel songs, you want to empty out your hand, especially when you know they have the whole new world. And so there was a turn where you quested with Hiram and sacrificed a Fishbone Quill, and you could have inked before you quested.
Yep.
And if you did that, then that meant you would get down to exactly 0 cards when the whole new worlded. Mm-hmm. And so that 1 ink meant that later on in the game, like 2 turns later, your next turn, you would be able to play an item, play Scrooge McDuck for free, play a Pete, and play a baby Tamatoa. And then that baby Tamatoa would allow you to put in a dime for free, which would allow you to play a Tamatoa, big Tamatoa, and just win the game.
The following turn. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I would get enough of his stuff off to keep him from winning.
The big takeaway there being against Amber Steel, Fishbone Quill is one of your most important cards because they can, they wheel you or whatever. You're trying to basically get as much ink as possible so that if they ever do wheel you, you can use all 7 of the cards in your hand or whatever.
You use their will against them, basically. They give you more fuel, and you're just churning through.
Okay, and then what about the next round? Would you play against? I actually don't know the answer to this. I was busy playing on camera, so I missed your whole thing.
Yeah, so I didn't know what I was playing against that round, so it turned out to be Sapphire Steel Kiwi, which I had already beaten 2-0 and 2-1 earlier in the day. I had a pretty good idea how to play against it. I thought Scrooge McDuck was huge in the matchup when they get their 1-4 Alice out. You love to hit it with a Scrooge, 4-4 body into a 1-4 feels great.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty comfortable in that matchup. Didn't go my way. I ended up losing 2-1 in that matchup to not get in to the top 8. Unfortunately, I think it was a guy you had beaten earlier in the day.
Yes,
right?
I played against. I don't remember
Matt something.
But I played against him in round 3, and then I ended up playing against him again in round 8. I mean, in top 8.
Yeah, on the stream.
Yep. And he was a really good player. Honestly, the first time I played against him, I made a couple of mistakes, mainly around Scrooge McDuck. I didn't respect it, and in game 3 I realized that, and I told him, I was like, I don't think I played perfectly, and I feel kind of lucky that my Oswald's bailed me out.
Sure.
Like I think inked 4 times, and all 4 were hits. It was like dime, Fishbone Quill, Maurice's Workshop, and a popsicle.
He definitely learned from your match previously, because as soon as my Oswalds hit the mat, he was taking Oswalds out left and right. So
yeah,
he was afraid of the
I
Oswald.
basically scarred him because mine were so good.
Funnily enough, Oswald is the card that I've had to defend most over the past few days on X. I know that you don't really get into this sort of elbow throwing, mudslinging or whatever, but I've been in the comments section. People are like, Oswald only hits 1 out of 10 times, and I'm like, hey, pretty good for a 2-drop to come in and threaten to win the game every turn, sometimes twice a turn. That's actually kind of insane value, and then I'll have an argument about it. But yeah, Oswald has been the card I've had to defend the most. Weirdly enough, I think it's one of the better cards in the deck.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another target that you have to brawl, and if they have to brawl it, then they're in a super, super tough spot, because Hiram's coming right after that.
Absolutely. Ryan, you said something I wanted to highlight, which is that you had an unintentional draw in the Ember Steel decks, and you guys were talking a little bit before the show. You guys are worried about unintentional draws happening a lot with this Blue Steel deck, so why don't you guys talk to me about that?
Yeah, I mean, especially being a newer deck, I probably wasn't playing it the most efficient, but it did seem like, in blue-red matchups especially, these are going to be longer games, right? We're getting to the baby Tamatoa, the big Tamatoa turn, we play a dime, win the game, we quest for 18, right? Those games take a while. And honestly, I would say my opponents' mini games should have picked up their cards way before they did. The game was very much over, and we had to go through and count everything out, right? They let the game go on for 3 turns more than they should have.
Definitely. Sapphire is tough. Basically, the way we want to think about it is turn 1 Daisy Duck, turn 1 Diablo, turn 1 even Cinderella. Basically, the games are ending very quickly, right? Diablo, all you have to do is protect them, and you're going to gain so much advantage that you're going to be able to close out the game. Then when we look at Daisy Duck, that thing is just questing every single turn. You're just trying to end the game as soon as possible. Whereas Bell isn't something that is doing a great job at closing out the game. What it's trying to do is trying to distract your opponent. It's trying to distract your opponent. It's kind of like a glass cannon type situation where you put out this bell and you're okay, I'm going to use it as a turret to sing strengths and storms, and if they decide to quest, then I'm just going to use it as a distraction pawn type piece that's going to allow us to get to later in the game and finish off the game. And so your decisions are really tough, especially when you have to think a lot more about when you're inking, right? Like if you go like Oswald into ink, it becomes more complicated. And so this all has prolonged the game and has made the decision tree a lot more difficult, which means that in a best of 3, we're gonna have a lot more difficult time finishing the matches. And this is the first time I'm feeling like, okay, if we had a best of 2 situation, I can see the time element of like, this feels like set 1 all over again, where it was red purple versus red purple, where we were all trying to draw in our entire decks, right? We're not drawing exactly our entire decks right now. We're getting to like the last 25 cards or 20 cards, but it's still like a lot of our deck and a lot of triggers and stuff stacking up.
Certainly. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the sentiment about how to move forward with Blue Steel. I've been online. I've been in a lot of areas, both on my space and in the comments. People are saying that people might start adding, extra Benjas, extra I find them on Platinums, and then in an effort to be good against Blue Steel and sort of hedge against those, the Blue Steel players are adding Cogsworth and Tinkerbells to their decks. I'll be honest. The arguments that they're saying are really good, and you have like really good players who've been playing Blue Steels for a long time, but I don't know how to articulate that. I just think that those cards are extremely slow and weak, and you'll lose because you're playing extremely slow and weak cards against a really powerful deck.
I try not to argue with those type of players.
Right, I understand. That's why I've been doing it.
I mean, I think that I'll just prove my point with time, right? Like with dominance of the game. That's like, there's not like, I think that what really demonstrates a good deck is not like one person winning with it. Like, like Edwin's Continentals, right? That's great. But the next step of that is like, if you're trying to purely build like a masterpiece, it's like when other people are picking up the deck and they're winning with the deck. Like all sorts of players, beginners, like people who've been playing Blue Steel forever and they've never won anything because it's been such a terrible deck. Like those people start to win with the color combination. It's just like the deck building is what's going to stand out. And so I like I'm really not trying to like get into like who articulates an argument better. Let's just get it down to the numbers. I sometimes like listen to these things, like to some of that content, and then I'll be like, oh, am I wrong? And I'll like reassess everything. I'll go play a bunch of matches, and my record will be like abysmal, and I will have no idea like what's targeting what. Like I'm playing this Tinkerbell, and it's like, yeah, I could hit an Oswald potentially, but hasn't that Oswald already gotten like a bunch of triggers?
It's interesting because they're saying that these cards are going to be good to get people pivot into like hate cards. Benja Gantu is something that people are really looking to play against us. I find on my Platinum something that inhibits our item package. They're saying that things like Cogsworth are going to make it so that we can't quest anymore with any of our guys, and Tinkerbell is going to be able to like also mop up those guys and quest for enough to put a significant clock on us. That's the argument in favor.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Honestly, I've been playing Lorcana, and I find on Platinum, there'll be people who do it like 2 or 3 turns in a row, and I'll just play Tamatoa, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, and they're just like spending their whole time like doing nothing.
I thought it was hilarious the number of opponents at the Southside Gaming that after our match would pull out a Find It at Platinum and be like, oh, look, I had this in my deck. Look, I had this. It's so funny.
Yeah, I said in my winner's interview, I was like, that card just lets me trick on them. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, all right, banish all your items. And I'm like, okay, watch this. And then I do my next turn, and it's like, quest with Tamatoa, get back to Lucky Dime, quest with the other one, play it for free, play all these other items, and then gain 20, you know what I mean? Like, you're just letting me sort of do my like Toku Sentai, like Ginyu Force style, like dance all over you. I just would play a card that makes it harder for me to win. I would just try to get my Tamatoa off the board, personally.
Yeah. Just learn the deck.
Learn the deck. A little bit of advice for when you're playing against the deck. You got to get Tamatoa off the board. That's the most important card to get off the board. And I'm talking about the shiny one.
Oh, which one?
Yeah, 8. Tamatoa So Shiny is the one you have to get off the board. Ideally, you get the 6.
You need to get both of them off the board.
Happy as a Clam also has to go, but the shiny one is going to kill you next turn almost no matter what.
I feel like, okay, let's say you untap with the baby one, right? I feel like if you untap with it, you're like at the 90% mark already to win.
Yes.
And so then if you play the big one and if you untap with that, it's like 100 plus.
Happy as a Clam.
There were games where I didn't even ever have to tap the 8 cost Tamatoa. I would just win on a dime to it as soon as I played it.
That's why you're getting slow play violations. It's faster if you just quest with it.
It couldn't. It wasn't dry.
Oh, well, yeah. If it's not dry, you got to use the dime. Use 2 dimes.
I did 2 dimes. Yes, I did 2 dimes.
2 dimes this weekend was
my opponents love that one.
something I never had before. Let me rub these two coins together. All right. I mean, that's most of what we had on the docket. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, just general weekend. I thought that was a great weekend. We got to drive in a car for 18 hours. We got to play card games with our friends. I don't know. You guys have done this 1,000 times, right? I mean, It was cool to be a part of that. Like, we were the guys in the room with the deck, right? And after 3-4 rounds, everybody knew it. Everybody wanted to watch. Everybody wanted to ask questions. Everybody wanted to know what the deal was with the deck, right? We were on top of the room all day. Yeah, unfortunately, I lost my, couple win innings that I had there. But what was cool about that, I was still excited. You guys were going on to top 8. We were bringing cases home in the car, right? As a new player, it was cool to have a group of people around. Even though they were excited about making top 8, they could see the look on my face of like death when I didn't win my winning in. Zan read it pretty well. He's like, you don't want to talk right now. And then Jeremy read it pretty well, and he's like, let's go outside. Because as soon as I got outside, we could just kind of sit there and talk about it. And like, moving on, we'll get the next one. We'll prepare better. We'll get you ready next time. So you're not missing those, complicated trigger sequences, right? We'll just bounce back.
The walk outside pretty undefeated. Yeah, the road trips with the friends to play in a card game tournament are just like maybe some of my favorite experiences ever. There was definitely a time in my life, it was around like 2019, 2020, where I was like, I think the most fun I can have on a weekend is like playing in a card game tournament, with all my friends, seeing how they do, trying my best. I get like the satisfaction of competition. I get, we all go out to eat. There's usually a dinner. I think in this one, we all went to Taco Bell after the event. Some of the best Taco Bell I've ever had in my life. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, shout out to Taco Bell Cantina.
Shout out to Nathan, who always pays for Taco Bell.
That's one of our friends. He always pays for Taco Bell. And his quote is, Taco Bell's the best one to always pay for because really it's not that expensive.
$30 for all the boys.
$30.
Whatever they want.
Yeah, thanks for paying for Taco Bell.
Don't talk to Nathan. He's off screen. He's our Jamie. If we need anybody to look anything up, which would be a little egregious in a Lorcana podcast, considering we have the best Lorcana player and also the maybe what am I? If I'm not the best, maybe the most talkative Lorcana player in the room, and then also the prettiest.
Vegeta, obviously.
Yeah, right. Okay, we can't keep calling me Vegeta.
What do you mean you're like,
I am the Prince of all Saiyans. That's so funny.
What's the guy from the Podcana podcast, Brendan? People say I'm your guys' Brendan.
Yeah, you're like our Brendan. Who's Brendan? Brendan DeCandio?
No.
I think he's the guy that's
APG?
not on that podcast anymore, right?
Ooh.
He's a commentator. Pretty smart guy.
I know Liam from the Illumineers.
We didn't ask you if he was smart, Zan. Is he better looking than I am?
Oh, I don't think about those things.
You have a really traditional, you have like a Kennedy style appeal where it's like what a like a true blue sort of like straight up blocks. And there's some people that are like attractive in a different way, a more unconventional way. But they, they still got it. They still look great. But and you're our like, this is our classic good looking friend. He looked good in like a colonial, coat.
Well, I just want to say our friendship is based off of personality.
No.
Absolutely not. It's card playing ability, 1.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even card playing ability.
I would say that it's the most important factor. In all
No,
of
it's not. It's not.
Zan's like desperately trying to be like, no, no, I don't even know about it. I don't even notice that.
I like to have people around me that have a growth mindset. No matter how bad the loss is, like, you pick it up and get better.
100%.
Classic grind set Zan. He's like, if I'm in a room with all my friends, why are we not talking about investments? Why are we not talking about portfolios? Your friend, what is that like phrase? Is like your friend group is your something, and it refers to like your network is your net worth. That's like Zan. They say that, and you're always like, my eyes are gonna roll into the back of my head.
I don't think I've ever said that.
What do we think about the card prices?
Oh
we
my
were
God.
sitting there on Saturday watching these things fly.
Yeah, they were going crazy. I bought Oswald's. So to be fair, I called everybody that I care to call in Lorcana. I was like, buy Oswald's right now. You need to get Oswald's.
Don't ask, just go buy.
That's what I mean. I really did that, and I bought my Oswald's. Like and I was like walking around like, hey, I need I went to a Charlie's collectible show tournament, and I was like, I'm gonna buy every Oswald in this room. Ended up being 2, but that's not the point. The point is that I bought them all. Prices are. Does anyone have an idea of like how low they were and then how high up they went? So Oswald was 8. Where did it end up after this weekend?
I think non-foil Oswald's 20 plus.
I think I've seen it at 25.
25.
Tamatoa was about 45 at the beginning of this weekend. Tamatoa 6, happy as a clam. Where did it end up at the end of this weekend?
65, 70.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then the last one, probably nobody knows this one. Scrooge McDuck. How much were they? How much are they now?
I think they were less than 20, and I think they're in the 45 range.
I think they went 17 to 45. So over double jumps for all these cards.
Huge.
Except for Tamatoa, which did not over double, but it did.
And you talk about foil Oswalds, I think they're 50.
And promo Oswalds, 250.
Yeah.
So, when you talk about card game prices, a lot of people will bring up, is it too much? Do you guys think that, the current state of the game where if you have to play blue, you got to drop, like $250, $450 on a suite of cards is acceptable? Where are we at with this?
I mean, I can't imagine it holding, but I think that, Ravensburger has a shot to fix it all. I mean, I'll give them the answer. The answer is pretty simple. Let's ban or errata Popsicle.
You gotta, people were asking me what card catches the ban. It's gotta be Popsicle.
Yep.
Here's the thing. It's not the most powerful looking card, but every card that they print that interacts with items goes through the filter of what about Popsicle. So if you don't have Popsicle, suddenly Bell isn't that egregious, right? Obviously with Fortisphere, you probably also ban Fortisphere, by the way, but suddenly Bell needs to sacrifice something that costs 2 or 3.
Fortisphere has the downside of you can't pop it anytime you want to also, right?
Don't get rid of Fortisphere. I'll tell you why. Because basically now we have like a blue steel deck, and then blue-red is forced to find another identity, right? And so then we end up in a healthier place.
So anyway, every item card they print, and they're going to keep printing item cards. Item cards are pretty important to Blue's identity. Has to go through the lens of Popsicle, and it's just too much to do. The other thing that would solve it would be, and this is something that you and I talked about in the podcast back when we had that big yellow wall, I brought it up. It was like maybe our 13th episode or whatever. I was like, the more cards they print, eventually this format has to rotate. And you were a big advocate for no rotation.
I still am.
Still am. That's awesome, I think. But I did say at the time it's a pretty radical idea. The way that the card games typically work is they print cards. If you imagine if there's no rotation, when set 15 comes out, the bar for a card to be playable is going to be so high because it has to interact. It has to compete with basically every card that's ever been printed. Obviously, with a rotation, obviously that no longer becomes true. Let's say it's the most recent 6 sets or whatever. Well, then Popsicle's gone almost naturally, right? You're going to have that's in set 2, and it's going to go the way of the dinosaur. And then you have 2 kind of clean formats. You have an Eternal format. That's every card, and that's going to have a lot of commentary.
But that divides the community, right? It's the pre and post people. The people who came before the rotation and the people who came after. It will divide. I mean, we just saw it in Magic. We see it in Hearthstone. It's like the people who played set 1 and set 2 and set 3, and then the people who didn't. And so what I'm afraid of is the divide, right? Like right now when I walk into Lorcana tournament, every single person is like able to come and talk to me about like their experience in Lorcana.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as we make 2 different formats, it's like the time investment doubles. It not only doubles, it then gatekeeps the game, right? Because people will, I mean, there's been a lot of times where people like the older format more than the newer format.
Mm-hmm.
And the price of those older cards keeps going up, which is great for investment, but it creates a bubble around the game.
Yeah, you think the blue bubble's bad. Wait till you need, be prepareds that are 3 years old in a little bit. Those are going to start to get Tamatoa 8, so shiny. That card's getting scarcer and scarcer by the day.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I get it. It's just, I mean, I really don't want to see that divide. And a lot of the new TCG players haven't seen that divide before, and it always ends up causing problems. And I'm just like, dang, I want to hold on to this as long as possible. If we can make it to set 100 and we didn't have to have a rotation, that would be just like...
Would you be comfortable with like a lot of reprints? So I'm talking about Tamatoa 8. I'm talking about Be Prepared. Those could both be in set 8, and then everything I'm talking about goes away in terms of this barrier to entry.
I don't mind reprints, but I want to see the potential in the cards, because I would say Lorcana honestly is not a game that has problem with pricing.
Okay.
Right? Compared to Magic, compared to Yu-Gi-Oh!, compared to all these other games.
Lorcana is one of the cheaper ones.
Exactly. And I think that if people made money on their investment of it, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, I will say that if set 7 blue is the only viable, basically, color for competitive play, Lorcana did kind of leapfrog over everything.
Of course, but this is like this. We could think about this as a bucket style situation. Sure. Obviously, the games are way cleaner and better and healthier, and like the better players are winning. But again, it's like there's an easy fix. Popsicle is not a card that people are going to be losing a lot of money on. So if they errata that, it fixes a lot of things.
I was so excited to get my Japanese popsicles, but now I'm just worried they're going to get errata.
I mean, I don't think I have that much weight, but I would love, I would love for more color combinations to be playable. I think that, going on this tour of March of playing Lorcana set 7, and I'm afraid that every top 8 is going to have at least 5 copies of Blue Red Blue Steel.
Let's close on that. So you're going to the Hunter Burton Memorial in Austin, Texas, this weekend. Great tournament. Honors one of our fallen TCG players, Hunter Burton. That's just amazing. Talk to me about what you're thinking for playing. Are you thinking kind of keeping it the same, running it back? Are you changing a lot, changing a little bit? What's going on?
I mean, going to be releasing version 3 of the Blue Steel deck on the Metafy.
Oh, version 3.
Yeah. Basically, you got to build a version that beats the mirror match. And so at this point, we know that the deck has gone viral enough and has proven itself enough that it's a target whether you like it or not. So let's figure out how to gain a slight edge that you can take advantage of in your tournaments coming up.
All right, and that's going to be our podcast for today. My name is Jeremy Bertrioni. You can find me on X at MOXJeremy, Mox Jeremy, and you're going to want to, because I am hosting spaces on the weekly. You'll have a chance to come on, ask me questions if you'd like, listen to the discussion that I'm having with some of the top Lorcana players, top Lorcana content creators. Ryan, where can they find you, and what are they looking for?
Same place. I'm on X, ATL Ryan Walk. I'm definitely going to join for some of the spaces, sip my coffee. How about you, Zan?
Yeah, you're already here. Thanks for joining. Will I join any spaces? I'm not sure if I'm going to talk, but I might be there just to support. I feel like those type of discussions always make me feel like kind of like, meh.
You're also not a morning guy, so you can't join the podcast.
The problem, the idea behind the space is that it's like a early morning sort of radio show vibe. So I wanted to get people on their commutes to work. But I mean, you and I have been burned by this before. When we were on a Magic the Gathering team, we would often find ourselves out argued, where somebody would present a really compelling case for a card. We happen to know that like it just wasn't strong, but the best thing we could say is like, but that's worse. And I was sort of in the same spot when they were talking about Cogsworth and Tinkerbell. I was like, do you guys get that those cards cost 5? You know what I mean? Like in the blue steel deck, the only thing I'm paying a lot of ink for are Tamatoas.
Yeah. I mean, I will say before, Lorcanito got updated and all this stuff, a lot of people wanted to get in a call with me and do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like avoiding it at all costs.
We've just been burned before.
And I was like, do you realize that, your testing is a little inbred? Like, please, stop testing now because you don't understand what you're doing.
All right. So that's us. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week.